Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This session of the forum is going to be looking at marketplaces and exchange platforms for African content and looking at the challenges and opportunities that there exist. As always, my name is Benjamin Pius. I am the publisher for Broadcast Media Africa. We are the presenter of this forum. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me familiarize you with the eminent people we have on the panel. So first off, I have Tigist Kebede. Tigist is the operations director and co-founder of Habesha View. They are based in, well, Tigist is based in the UK, but the company is Ethiopian oriented. She will talk a little bit more about it when I swing back to her. And then I have Johan Drotskie. Johan is in charge of content with Empire Entertainment in South Africa. And I have Super Lady Rose Adkins also. Rose is the founder of ScreenHits, also based here in the United Kingdom. There we have it. These are the guys that are going to be talking to us today. Rose, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
My name is Rose Adkins Hulse, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of ScreenHits TV. ScreenHits was started in 2012 as a B2B marketplace for the buying and selling of television content. So we worked with distributors around the world, foreign sales agents, and studios that have the content's rights. And we aggregated that data onto our platform and connected them with over 4,000 buyers from broadcast channels, digital platforms like Netflix that were looking to acquire content for their services and channels. Then we continued to grow, and we started to develop the content monetization technology for companies like Turner Broadcasting and IMG. And right now, as the industry is changing and seeing the influx of a lot of streaming platforms, we all have kind of just been sitting back watching in amazement the growth of Peacock and HBO Max and Disney Plus. And we are using our technology to address that and aggregate content for these content partners so they can be discoverable and find subscribers and make it easy for subscribers to integrate all of their apps into one interface so they don't have to switch between multiple streaming platforms. So we are B2B and B2C.
All right, excellent. Johan, talk to me.
Hi, I'm Johan Drotskie from Empire Entertainment. We're based in Johannesburg in South Africa, and we choose South Africa's largest independent film distributor. We acquire international and local films and distribute via all platforms theatrical. Theatrical is our first main focus, and then from there we take it through to all the various platforms. My function is to ensure that the content is delivered to all the non-theatrical platforms, i.e. VOD, pay TV, free TV. And our theatrical business also distributes films throughout Africa. We have quite a few African cinema partners that we distribute films to.
Okay, excellent. Let me go to the lady herself, Tigist. Tell us more about you, and I'm sure, like everyone else that's watching us, keen to hear about Habesha View.
Thank you, Benjamin. So Habesha View is the first Ethiopian-based international film distributor for Ethiopian contents, as well as being a streaming service. So Habesha View was founded in 2015 in the US. So we have offices in Virginia, London, and also in Addis. So the whole idea of setting up this platform and also distribution is that for quite a while, the Ethiopian film industry in the market has not had a huge access internationally. As Johan was saying, we started off with theatrical release in London, taking up and coming, I mean, the content is there, but it's just the access. So we've created a platform in 2015. We started with Ethiopian films, taking them from Ethiopia to the international market. national festivals, as well as being able to provide the dedicated service ourselves and to put the films onto our platform. So there's onefold, we distribute them internationally, reaching to the big four and others to have the viewership of Ethiopian films. Mostly these are very original, unique storyline in Amharic or different languages, but also with subtitle. So at the moment, we provided the streaming service for about 3 years for free, and we've just turned it into subscription-based. And we're also just recently in February ventured into co-production and mentoring up and coming, not only Ethiopian filmmakers anymore, but also venturing into East Africa and South Africa filmmakers as well. So this is a great platform to be on.
It sounds like a fantastic platform. I'm assuming that the platform that you have, the streaming platform, is actually also called Habesha View, correct?
It is. So the companies, the parent company is separate. So Habesha View is the international distributor as well as a streaming platform.
Okay, and just to also be clear, for now, maybe forever, it's only Ethiopian content. At
the moment, we started off, when the companies started off, it was with a view of distributing Ethiopian films and contents. We've now...
How large is that? How large is this Ethiopian content marketplace?
Well, if we start within Ethiopia, it's a very large country. So we have 107 million population with about 42 million access to online platforms. So they have data, they have smart TV, smartphones, such like. At the same time, the diaspora community of Ethiopians is estimated to be over 4 to 5 million abroad. So these are the ones who live in North America, Europe, the Middle East, and in parts of Africa. So the film industry in Ethiopia has been grassroots in country at the moment. Lots of films being made without having huge access abroad. What we're providing is taking those selected films like Nollywood and Hollywood. It takes a while to develop it. Taking those selective films onto the international market. Because in Ethiopia, brilliant filmmakers, up-and-coming filmmakers, established filmmakers, but did not have the access to take that film abroad to be well recognized as being an Ethiopian film. So for example, if I go to the first film we've distributed, and it is the best one currently made, it had a premiere in London back in October. Things were a bit easier. And it's gone on tour, is one of the best film made, which is called In Chained. Very original storyline, very traditional, beautifully filmed with English subtitles. So we are promoting this as one of the examples, but there are more of those caliber of films coming out of Ethiopia. Storyline is original, and there is the market there.
There is the market there. I'm sure there is a market there. I mean, otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting there talking to me about it. Now, Rose, talk to me about those challenges that you've come across when you're trying to strike stakeholder partnership. And I want you to contextualize this within the African space. What are those challenges that you faced?
Yes. So I can kind of just talk about device partnerships and then also just content partnerships from an international level and then also locally. One of the challenges that we have faced when trying to focus and break into the African market is, where do we focus on? Do we start, do we create a global product? If so, which different countries do we integrate? There's many different cultures and languages within Africa, and trying to create a global product across Africa we found was a big challenge and just would not work. And so it was deciding to find one territory first to focus on and go into. And then with doing that, we wanted to reach out to different device manufacturers, and we found our efforts with South Africa Telecom quite challenging. They were looking more so to having a lot of international content versus a lot of the different African content that we would have, whether it was in Bollywood or wherever else. And I feel that a lot of those African production companies probably are sometimes being overlooked by these large telcos, thinking, well, we have to have the Amazon, we have to have the Netflix, we have to have all of these big products. And on the B2B side, when we were looking to actually try to resell a lot of that African content, a lot of it was not focused on being sold within Africa, which is a huge market, and it should be. So that was one of the challenges. And I think also internationally, and if you look at India, for example, and what they do with Hotstar and a lot of their Indian content, there's, you know, hundreds of millions of Indians living, not hundreds of millions, but there's millions of Indians living outside of India, and creating packages and content for them to be able to reach globally is something that they do very well in India. And I don't feel that African content is targeted or distributed a lot to the Africans that are living abroad. If you think about South Africa alone, there's 4.3 million South Africans living abroad, and is that content really being, is that content really being, you know, packaged and marketed to people on different platforms? And you see Netflix now starting to show a lot of Nollywood content, and ScreenHits is planning to do that as well. We're trying to partner with Africa XP on linear channels and also video on demand, to make sure that we actually have that content represented globally. But I think these are some of the challenges that we have faced and seen.
Interesting. Johan, what's the story from your side? Is it easy going?
It is challenging, but however, there's great opportunity. There's definitely a need for content. People want the content. It's just to get, again, the right partners. When we started distributing theatrically, it was challenging in the beginning, and then, but the moment we aligned with the right partners, we're seeing some really great business coming out of the various countries in Africa, especially theatrically, to the point where we almost doubling our turnover every year, theatrically wise.
Really? So
box office turnover.
Johan, let me clarify that or let me ask you a follow-on before you carry on with the challenges. So when you say theatrically, you're talking about in cinemas, right?
Yes.
Right. Because I'm just thinking, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, the marketplace for cinema in Africa is still very small, right?
It varies country by country, but we're seeing, for instance, our Nigerian partners, the theatre complexes are popping up one after the other. So, as I said, in certain of our territories, we're really seeing good growth in a business. Bear in mind, this is only for international content. We only don't distribute the international Hollywood movies to these theaters.
Okay. And the Hollywood movies that you distribute, do you have, can you give me a sort of flavor of the kind of companies or organizations that you distribute content for?
Our partners, international partners, is from Lionsgate, STX, NGM, quite a few. We basically represent all the major independent international studios. We seeing the biggest uptake from a genre point of view is action.
Okay.
Action movies do exceptionally well. I would say comedy after that, and the rest is is quite minimal. But action is the key.
So from you and from what you're saying, I detect that then, inversely, the partnership situation with local content is not that strong just yet, right?
No. Well, in South African content, yes. We have a very strong South African content division, but there's no appetite for that in the rest of Africa.
Okay, I want to come to Tigist and check with you the same question or the same issue. Partnerships, very key, very important. How are you scaling it? How are you making it work?
So to touch on the base of the cinemas initially, there are, I think in Africa in general, I can speak for East Africa, not necessarily South Africa, there are still cinemas where people are used to going, paying and watching a film. It's a very traditional market. And the streaming service, online service are just coming to the market mainly because of lack of internet access or devices or the expense of actually accessing such service. In terms of partnership, we are, one of the reasons also we've created the platform is that because we were reaching out to a lot of international, the big 4 or 5 streaming services, getting in touch with them saying these are fantastic films that you should be looking at, original content, but it was very hard to break into that market. Or if we did, the agreement they provide is not very favorable for African filmmakers in general.
Okay. Sorry, because this is important. You've hit a nail on the head there. Very hard to break in. Agreement not favorable to filmmakers. Can you break that down for me, please? Because that's important for our audience.
In terms of, I think we all know the big 4 streaming services, and everybody wants to be on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple at the moment. But those organizations are focusing on a different content and also for a different market. Even though Netflix is now looking at Africa thinking, I need some original content. A lot of content comes from West Africa. Nigeria's film industry is much more developed than East Africa or even South Africa at the moment. They're ahead of their time. But there are also the smaller filmmaking countries which have actually got very original content. But getting those contents out onto the market, to the worldwide community, because these films are not particularly focusing on one community, but they actually have a worldwide appeal. So because of that, even if these contents are taken onto the big 4, they have hidden somewhere else. You know, there isn't the marketing, or it's very difficult to find them. If you have thousands of films on a platform, you will not be able to see the film there. As such, somebody like ours or any other new streaming service which is dedicated to the African content will be much more viable in the future than, again, going for the big 4. Yeah. I'm not promoting the company. There is a reason why I'm saying this. It's only also because the negotiating power of African filmmakers is not as high as, say, for example, the Indian or the Asian market, because it's not venturing onto that. I have had experience whereby the favorable terms they give is not fair for some of the up-and-coming filmmakers because they have the monopoly. That's one. Secondly, talking about partnership, I think I find I go back and forth to Africa quite a lot. I mean, obviously, because of this pandemic, we haven't been able to, but I go 5 or almost 10 years. Yeah,
you me too.
Yeah, so the partnership needs to be very trustworthy. I think, you know, there's a lot of made. So one of the things we are struggling with is we're also co-producing and commissioning content, but delivery time is always difficult. Contents are either diluted or, as Rose said earlier, everybody wants to have the international market to be brought into Africa rather than the content made in Africa to be seen within Africa. That's another thing we're coming across as well. It's also for African content owners to realize there is a bigger market beside the well-known ones. I think there's still this idea in Africa that, you know, something you know about is much more important than something which is up and coming. Maybe there is a trust issue as well.
Rose, so your platform, Rose, again, I've known you for a while, and I've always had the impression that your platform is a marketplace of sorts, if not the marketplace for content the likes of the African market can tap into. You've seen some of the issues that Lady Tigist have mentioned or have raised. Do they apply to your platform? How are you resolving those, if they did?
From a marketplace standpoint, I mean, I think that the issues that we have found and just kind of breaking into Africa and why it's not working, I feel that across all different platforms, people, or all different countries, people have like this very protective relationship with their content. And they fear that using an online marketplace takes away that relationship they have to sell their content directly. They don't like someone else managing and handling that relationship. And it's more of a fear thing. It's more of a, gosh, you know what? If I give up this control, then I get cut out, and then they can go direct. The content owners go direct to the content sellers, and then that middle person, that distributor, gets cut out of the pie. And because a lot of the distributors own a lot of that content, they're not willing to give it up. And so it's very short-minded in the sense, because they don't look at these marketplaces as a tool, they look at it as a threat. And ScreenHits was created from the standpoint as a salesperson selling content. It is very difficult because you can't get on a plane the whole time. These people are seeing multiple different, sorry, one second, I apologize for that. They're seeing multiple, you know, different content being pitched to them on a regular basis. Nobody knows exactly what they're looking for. And, you know, ScreenHits platform was very to tell you, basically, here are buyers that have this budget that are looking for this. And this is the type of content I'm looking for. And for that content owner to say, great, because now I have this available content in this price range that I could sell to Nigeria, to Ethiopia, to Ghana. But people didn't want to have that relationship because they didn't see the benefits. And this has not just affected ScreenHits, it's affected TRX, it's affected a lot of different companies like Rights Trade that have been trying to break that marketplace. For us, getting in Africa, unless we had a local partner that was on the ground, that had those existing relationships that could provide comfort to those distributors, it was impossible. And we found it a real struggle. And the only distribution partners in Africa that came to us to sell their content was not so much to sell it internally within Africa, but to sell it to different territories outside of the continent. So, I mean, I do feel that right now it's the time for marketplaces, because people cannot travel, and you know, people are overwhelmed, and people are not going to be sending out DVDs, or they're going to get like so many links or broken links. And these type of Zoom calls and conferences, these online marketplaces can really grow in this moment by integrating these sort of sessions.
How can we make sure that a trusted marketplace in Africa exist?
Yeah, I feel that, you know, trust is something that has to be earned. And I think, you know, by just putting a few things in place, such as monthly or quarterly reports that actually show what is being processed, allowing that that sales or that content distributor to finalize and negotiate those deals. You don't have to finalize a deal on a marketplace. That marketplace can be a pure introduction lead generator, where that salesperson then builds from that and then starts to sell in other products. And I think that's what we were trying to do on the trust factor. We weren't trying to close the deal, do the contract online. It was literally, let us drive, you know, lead generation to you, so you have the opportunity to close that deal and more deals and build the relationship. The problem is on the marketplace side, we get screwed, because once we give them that relationship, then they can just cut the marketplace out and build that relationship going forward, and then we don't see that revenue. And there's no company that can survive without revenue. You can give away stuff for free all day long, but then you won't be around in 5 or 10 years. So it needs to be an appreciation and respect and trust on both levels.
So I don't know if you get that as well. I have a question that says, who does the contract sit with in this scenario, the scenario you're painting? And what is your commercial model, i.e. ScreenHits commercial model?
Yes, so the marketplace model is we take a commission from those that don't want to pay a monthly licensing fee to the platform. So if somebody doesn't have an upfront fee to pay, then that's fine. If they were to sell anything on the platform, so there's a success fee, and that's a commission that is negotiated between the parties. On average, it's 10%, but it can vary. The contract sits with the distribution company, not with ScreenHits. So, for example, we did a deal with CTV a few years back, and they bought over 100 episodes with Hasbro for Transformers, for their channels that they were launching in Africa. And that contract sat directly with Hasbro. We didn't get involved in or negotiate that.
So are you are you reasonably satisfied, Lady Kebede, with the points that have been made in terms of actually having a proper, does that work for you, or do you still see some holes that we need to fill?
I have a feeling that I think Rose came up with a good point. I think a lot of filmmakers or content owners have a trust issue, and I think it's the transparency, it's the worry that if they have a middleman or middlewoman, that the person will not be transparent. Over time, that will change, and like anything else, it needs to be transparent. They need to have access to the reporting system. But at the end of the day, I think there is three models. Even when we started with the acquiring content in Africa and in Ethiopia especially, there were three models we used. Most of the time, the content owners wanted to just sell the right because they were worried about, we are registered in the US and the UK, now in Ethiopia. They were worried that somebody like us will come, take their content, not be able to pay them in the long term, or maybe tell them about the subscription, what they're entitled to. So we have the first model is to buy the right of the film. Second one is we do a revenue share. Third, we also do the licensing. So we have offered them three different choices for them to choose from, making it very clear one would be more beneficial than others, but we also allow them to go away and think about it. I think most of the time, yeah. So
in terms of the beneficial opportunities, to your mind, which one do you normally say to people, look, is it buying it outright? Is it 50-50 or revenue share, or is it licensing in terms of the distribution benefits?
So as a company, in the long term, it's beneficial for me to buy the rights completely, but that is not beneficial to the content owner, because they need to have the royalty. They need to be able to have a hold onto that content, because they'll be able to do something more about it. So we will be transparent and tell them this is what the model we're using. We advise them this might be an opportunity for you to have. I think one of the things is that we don't want them to lose the royalty. A lot of content in Africa has been lost because it's been bought outright, and the person who created it actually after 5 or 6 years has lost out. So we tend to advise them on the revenue share, which is favorable to them, or for us to have the license for a few years and then it reverts back to them. But obviously as a company, buying it outright is more better.
Johan, whilst I have you, tell me about your situation with regards to the distribution of your content. I know you say you are mostly focused at the minute on international content. Any plans for localized African content, Nollywood type of content from Kenya, content from Ethiopia? Any plans for you to be able to work with partnerships with these guys to start distributing that across your network as well?
So in Empire Entertainment, and we're part of a company called Arena Holdings, and we have a local film division called Indigenous Films and Studios, and within that divisions we actually do a lot of content creating. We've decided, we saw that in the market we need to be able to create content for what the people want. We've also, in the end of last year, we signed a co-production deal with a Nigerian film company.
How did you?
We co-produce in, I think it's six or seven Nigerian films. So we co-producers, we co-funders, and those films will obviously be distributed through in Nigeria, and we are going to distribute some of them in hopefully in South Africa as well. And in those films will travel throughout Africa and the world.
Okay, let's. I'm going to now shift to the closing segment, which is basically now to ask each one of you, what over and above what we've said thus far, if you were going to summarize, what would be your takeaway points for the industry and for the people that are watching us, so that when someone sees it, they say, "Ah, we can do that." Let me start with Rose. Your takeaway points and your overall summary, please. Thank you.
I would say, my takeaway points are that people should be very open to working with marketplaces, because there's money being left on the table that they could easily pick up without even thinking about it. I mean, going back to the Hasbro and C television deal, they weren't even thinking about them because the territories were too small, Hasbro, so they weren't returning the phone calls. And when I finally brought it to them via ScreenHits, they said, oh, this is like 100, episode deal. So there is money left on the table, and no one person can talk to, everyone around the world to see what they're looking to buy. Interesting, in South America, telenovelas sell extremely well in Russia and the Ukraine. But most sales people in like Argentina wouldn't even think that, or they may not even have that language, the language barrier. So these marketplaces help to surpass language barriers, eliminate stereotypes or ideas, and I think they're great. And going back to just like kind of African content, in the United States, there was a huge issue in the 80s and the 90s that African American content wouldn't sell internationally. So they would not force theatrical films starring Black cast members globally. They wouldn't try to sell TV shows like Moesha or The Parkers internationally, because they just felt nobody wants to watch this stuff. I don't know where they really got that information from, because they were wrong. And actually,
Who's laughing now? Yeah.
Yeah, well, Flavor Flav did extremely well and sold tremendously well when somebody decided to take it out. And I wrote for Ralph Farquhar, who produced Moesha and The Parkers, and it was selling amazing globally, as well as Kevin Hart's The Real Husbands of Hollywood. So nobody really knows, and marketplaces can actually really help to eliminate this stereotype, and actually integrating the consumer into marketplaces where you can test in different regions. If consumers would actually want to see a bit of content, can actually help sell content more. And then the last thing, just about trying to go from country to country to sell, I think that there needs to be some more collaboration, as it was mentioned in the panel, because it is a lot, and there's just not the manpower or the sales teams to go out and handle all of these different locations. So, partnering with maybe like one grand exhibitor that has, theaters across multiple countries, and doing a deal, even if it's testing it for just a week and then doing a huge push out digitally. There's many ways around it, but I think eliminating any opinion that the content can't work is the first step, because why can't people in Nigeria, Ethiopia create amazing content? Of course they can. They can create amazing content. They have amazing actors, amazing writers, amazing talent. And that content, regardless of if it's cultural, can be seen and appreciated and enjoyed everywhere. It's up to us, the business people, to make sure it gets out everywhere.
Make sure that happens. Absolutely. Fantastic. Thanks, Rose. Thank you very much. Johan, what should we take away from you today?
Being in content, I'm a firm believer from if it's good, it'll work, regardless of what language, of where it's made. Good content will always sell. I agree with Rose. I think marketplaces can be a lot more beneficial, and I think my final point would be that, as all the panelists said, the collaboration between African countries, I think, would be a huge advantage for us to share our content throughout the continent.
Okay. So, Tigist, Lady Tigist, tell me, what should we go away with from you today, ma'am?
I think we started off separately, but we've all joined up. We've all agreed collaboration is important. I would say original content and subtitling, because again, subtitle is very important. I wouldn't say English only, but good content with subtitle is the way to go forward. And we should be proud of the content that's coming out of each country in Africa or anywhere else. So original content, subtitling, collaboration among everybody who's in the industry, and giving content owners the reply, being very open and accessible. I think we have a policy of saying we will give you an answer within 14 working days, whether we want it or not. We give that deadline because it's very, very important to let these people know whether you're going to take their content or not, rather than keep them holding for quite a long time.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Stay safe and God bless you. Thank you.